Alright, let's check out what's going on with Monero. So, since our last video, we have been dropping pretty steadily to the downside. This is probably to be expected. You can see Bitcoin is trading to the downside within this descending channel. It is causing the majority of altcoins to move to the downside, so definitely not something to be surprised on here. A couple of bearish indicators. You can see that the squeeze mom has recently fired a bearish flip to the downside. This squeeze mom alone would be indicative, at least to me. This kind of says that we're probably going to move down to at least your 786 fib down here at approximately $190. So a pretty steep decrease from where we are right now. We could see, you know, another 14% or so in the market towards the downside. Now, there are also some other bearish signals. For example, you can see for the past 4 days, we've had a pretty nasty influx in volume, in selling volume to be precise. On the 4-hourly, only recently, 12 hours ago, we got a huge rejection from these 4-hourly EMAs. You can also see, you know, we are emming out right now, which is really not what you want to see in a uptrend for Monero. So where do we need to hold? Where are we likely to head? Well, if you zoom out to the macro term, it really does kind of solidify that we are probably setting up for a slight move to the downside. At least in my opinion, you know, drawing from this previous local high that we've got down to this low, you can see we had a pushback up to the 618 and a rejection, and depending on whether you want to draw it to the all-time high, you can see we got rejected from the 382 fib. We had a pretty accurate rejection from the 382 fib here, right here. So you can see the 382 Fibonacci is coming in at 280. We literally closed our candles here. We tried to have a momentarily pump above it, and we completely failed. So the move to the downside is probably more likely. However, I don't want to flip bearish on Monero per se, because, you know, drawing on what we've done in this macro, or rather the micro uptrend, you know, we've got strong, super strong support where this 200-day moving average meets this 200 EMA. You can see if I mark it, you know, if I highlight it here, you can see your 200 EMA is coming right into the 200-day moving average, which is converging right into the 618 Fibonacci. So there is a huge area of confluence around here. Also, this is a double fib. You've got your 618 at the top at 213, and then coming down to 212.7, you've got the 382 fib here. So there is a plethora of support coming in for Monero, which I personally do not plan on shorting to the downside. For example, you know, like I said, these momentum indicators, these more macro indicators like the volume as well, are calling that we could have a flush out to the 786. So potentially it could be an area where we could be setting up for a DCA moment. I personally do plan on, you know, DCAing back into Monero around these 786 regions if we do have a pullback to there. If we also have a throwback, you know, your absolute last line in the sand that really should hold should be this 236 Fibonacci at 182. So call it $180. We absolutely need to hold that region. If we have a move below there for Monero, not only will your daily EMA, or no, not the EMA, not only will your daily squeeze mom be firing super bearish to the downside, but you will also see that this weekly momentum flip will be a fake out. And the last time we had a fake out on the weekly squeeze momentum, we were right here. We had a dead cat bounce and then completely rolled over, unfortunately. So hopefully we don't see something like that. We really need to see a reversal coming in for Monero at some point soon. It doesn't have to be within the next week. Bear in mind, on the higher time frames, like I said, you've got super strong support of the 618 fib, but most importantly, you've got your weekly EMA ribbons coming in at approximately $211. So that will be a super strong area of support, in my opinion, for Monero. Worst comes to worst, you know, like I said, I could see a move back down to your 786 Fibonacci. I personally don't see moves below the 786. I think Monero is extremely bullish. We've broken out of a huge, you know, very big trend line. Let's just say that this trend line has been in place since basically the all-time high, the 3rd of May 2021. We're coming into May now, so you know, this trend line has been in play for the good part of a year, and we recently flipped it like a month or so ago. So I think this flip is going to be huge. Obviously, we've gone up in a straight line for the past 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. For the past 2 months, we've just been trending up in a straight line. It is probably about time that Monero comes down, decides whether it wants to bottom at this 618 where the weekly EMA ribbons are, or does it want to come down, have a little bit more of a macro flush out to 190 where you can see the 786 Fibonacci, or even 180. I think, in my opinion, the vicinity around 211 to 190 is going to be the most possible and plausible place that I see Monero bottoming. I really don't see Monero heading down too much further. You're coming over to the highly time frames and checking out your oscillators. We still do have more room to move to the upside. I mean, historically, whenever Monero seems to move to the upside, this is like a retail-based coin. I guess not a lot of institutions are in this for one reason or another. I don't think the majority of institutions really appreciate private coins. But yeah, that is just my opinion. And, you know, like I said, I really don't think we're going to be breaking down below these 786 regions. Your money flow indicator and your RSI looks like it's heading up very, very strongly. And at least historically, it is very, very rare that you see these oscillators top out before they do reach the absolute top. And when they do top out, it never seems like they come down to the oversold region. It just starts heading back up to the upside, and we kind of reaccumulate around the heart line. So I think Monero looks exceptionally bullish. This is a really, really nice chart in my opinion. You know, I'm not going to draw too much in terms of the macro fibs. I really want to focus on what's going on in the short term. And yeah, like I said, huge area of support coming in for Monero. Keep your eyes on basically the 618, like I said, at 213, and then you've got the 786 coming down at 192. I think it is likely, especially if you look at this on the weekly, I'd probably argue it's the most likely we're going to find support on these weekly EMAs at, you know, 211, 212, and then, you know, also that would be around the 618 region. So I think there's a huge area where Monero could find a decent area of support. As far as I can tell, Monero looks very, very nice. If we hop over to the Heikanashis, you can see this candle that we're putting in right now has barely even turned over to the red side. And historically, Heikanashis seem to work relatively well on Monero. As you can see, during these uptrends, you know, we have 5 or 6 weeks of solid accumulation, 1 or 2 weeks of correction, 5 or 6 weeks pushing back up to the upside, 2-week correction, 5 or 6 weeks pushing up to the upside, couple of weeks correction, and then blow off top. So I think we could be somewhere around this phase for Monero, where we maybe just need to take a week or two off. And like I said, historically drawing on these previous runs that we've had, the corrections never seem to be too dire. So like I said, something like this for the next 2 weeks and then a rally back up to the upside. This is why I think these regions round about 190 to 200 are going to be a great area to DCA in. That is all I've got for you for Monero today. The chart still looks very, very nice in my opinion. In the micro term, we're still in a huge uptrend. Coming over to the more macro term, you can just see, you know, we're putting in, you know, higher lows, higher lows. So I've got no problem with what we're seeing on Monero. I think we're looking incredibly bullish. That is all I've got for you today. As always, none of this is financial advice. It is just my opinion on the market. And before we wrap up the video, the Discord for the Cowboy community has finally been made. If you do want to join the Discord, the link will be in the description. That's all I've got for you. Cowboy out. Peace.